welcome to Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets on the Mayo Media Network for Tuesday, November 16th. My name is Cecil Peters, and I am here to walk you through, well, more accurately, talk you through today's NHL games. Before we get started, a quick reminder just to rate, review, comment on the show wherever you are listening to or watching it on. It really helps the show out and would be much appreciated. So we got 12 games today, complete doozy of a slate, a few games that I have some really strong leans on that I really like, and then a couple that I'm not really interested in at all. So obviously, with there being so many games, quickly rip through the games that I don't have a ton of interest in and take a little more time on the ones that I do. I will kind of touch on the shot props and DraftKings plays that I like as I go through the games instead of a big section at the end. With so many games, it's just much easier for me to get all 12 in that way. We're going to start in Buffalo here. The in Pittsburgh. Buffalo Sabres in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is minus 235 here on the money line, a completely stupid number. They just got destroyed 6-1 by the Washington Capitals the night before, 5-3 to the Ottawa Senators, a game that was actually 5-0. Ottawa Senators, who are missing a bunch of players with COVID as well. Even more embarrassing for Pittsburgh. But then they had a few excuses. They didn't have their starting goalie. They didn't have Sidney Crosby. They were missing some defensemen. Next game, in Washington, Crosby's back. All their defensemen are back. 6-1, get completely wiped out by the Washington Capitals. You can't bet them right now. They win games that they shouldn't win. They lose games that they shouldn't lose. Just an incredibly aggravating team to bet on. I actually did bet on them with the Ottawa Senators and won a nice big underdog bet on that game. And then the Penguins were an underdog against Washington, getting healthy. They played well in the third against Ottawa. I thought, okay, perfect, they're ready to go. Bet on the Penguins, and they got fucking smashed by the Capitals. So I don't know how to bet the Penguins this year. Tempted to bet Buffalo here. If they go with Dustin Tokarski in net, I probably will pull the trigger, especially close to plus 200 on the Buffalo Sabres. Top line is looking great for Buffalo right now. Tage Thompson centering Jeff Skinner and Rasmus Asplund. Asplin's kind of the zero on that line. He sometimes pitches in, but usually doesn't. Thompson and Skinner are both in play for the 5-shot bonus every night. If you can find shot props on these guys, over 2.5 shots for each of them. They've hit that a couple times in a row each. Rasmus Dahlin scored on the blue line for them in their last game against Toronto, so they are starting to score. They are starting to look like they have a top line that can compete in the National Hockey League. So Buffalo's not looking bad. Okay, they get the plus 190 because of their reputation as a horrible team, but they're playing almost as well as the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. They're not as deep. They don't have the high-end talent. But Pittsburgh's just not doing anything with it right now. So I'm uninterested in the Pittsburgh Penguins until they give me a reason to bet them again. Next game, New York Islanders plus 135 in Florida. Florida minus 155 on the money line. I am recording this before the Islanders game the night before. I'm not sure what their goalie rotation for this trip is going to be. If it is Ilya Sorokin, if Varlamov starts the night before in Tampa Bay, then maybe I have a bit of interest in the Islanders. I do love betting them as a dog, but on a back-to-back, they're getting close to the end of this massive, massive road trip to start the year as their building gets built and prepared for them to play some home games. So they're going to be fatigued. They're going to be tired. I'm not betting Florida either. Minus 155 against the Islanders is not something I'm going to touch at any time just because I think the Islanders are one of the top teams in the league, so just not a game that I'm interested in. If I was going to go somewhere on DraftKings, it would probably be one of the top two lines on the Florida Panthers if Semyon Varlamov is getting the start. Next game in Toronto. Toronto Maple Leafs minus 190 at home against Nashville. Nashville plus 160. Toronto's still firing, man. They still keep getting goals. They ran out their fourth string goalie last game, a guy who's letting in 3-4 goals every game at the AHL level. And he allowed 4 goals to the Buffalo Sabres. However, on the other hand, Toronto scored 5. They did what they had to do to get the win. Nashville's a tougher opponent than Buffalo would be, especially defensively. But it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're firing on all levels right now. Ondrej Case, Kosh, whatever you want to call him, jumps up to the first line with Matthews and William Nylander. That line has been scoring a ton. He's cheap. He takes a ton of shots. So Ondrej Case on the first line. If you like cheap, high shot volume players on DraftKings, he's probably the guy to go to. So Ondrej Case, cheap DraftKings option. I'm probably not going to bet the Leafs just because minus 190 is a tough pill to swallow. You have to bet so much on it to make anything of significance. And there's a ton of good options on this slate, but I certainly don't hate it. I don't hate getting creative with an in-regulation win or a Maple Leafs to win by 1.5 goals kind of bet. Next game in New York, Montreal Canadiens plus 125 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Rangers minus 145. I don't love the makeup of either team, but I also don't really have a good grip on either team right now. So for that reason, I'm just going to sit this one out. Igor Shesterkin in net for the Rangers will have some interest for me on DraftKings. He's a great goalie. New York gives up a ton of shots. Other than that, no interest from me in this game. Next game on the night is one I'm definitely interested in. You guys probably all know what I'm going to say here, but the Calgary Flames minus 115 at Philadelphia. They're minus 105. So Calgary a slight favorite. I mean, you're crazy if you think I'm not slamming a bet on the Flames here. Slight favorite road game against a decent Philly team. I have been off betting Calgary for a bit in their past few games, which has been the right call. Lost to San Jose when they were just too heavy to bet. I lost to Montreal where I considered betting them, but decided to hold off. Overtime loss to the Leafs. Didn't bet that game. And then they won against the Senators last game. Again, it was just too big of a number to bet. Obviously, they were expected to win that game, especially with the injuries and illnesses that the Ottawa Senators have. But it was over minus 200, so just not something that I bet. But I'm back. Calgary, minus 115. Jacob Markstrom's going to get the start. He missed the last two games as they just gave him some rest. He really struggled with fatigue last year. Calgary wanted to give their backup a couple of games in a row just to kind of see how he would perform, which overtime loss and a shutout win, so he did great. Great sign for Calgary moving forward. But I'm all in on the Flames here. Minus 115 is an awesome number. The one thing I will note about Calgary is at home, their first line is the line to go to. Ton of ice time, ton of minutes. They get them in good situations against the less defensive lines of the other teams. So I love Calgary's first line at home. On the road, they're still controlling the play when they play, but not quite as much. They get the top defensive attention from their opponents. The second line of Calgary, they put it together a few games ago. Blake Coleman, Sean Monahan, Andrew Mangiapane, they've been scoring in every single game. Their expected goals percentage is well above 60% since they've been put together. Their Corsi's well above 60%. Their scoring chances percentage is well above 60. Great numbers for a line. 3-game sample size. Obviously not huge, but enough to show that they can play well together. I think the move was kind of made to get Sean Monahan scoring a little bit, and it has worked. He's got some assists in the past few games. Mangiapane keeps scoring on the road. As a cheap second line, I mean, I'm going to them on DraftKings a little bit here. I've been doing it the past few nights. It hasn't been a slate winning play yet because they haven't got the 2 or 3 goals they needed, but it's been close. They're still getting the goals. They're allowing you to cash your lineups. Good price on these guys on DraftKings for cash games as well. It's a line that I love going to. And yeah, obviously betting the Flames, leading the entire league in expected goals percentage in the month of November. Usually a pretty good sign of things to come. The next game we got here, the San Jose Sharks in Minnesota. It's hard not to try and get creative to find a way to bet the Wild in this one. They're minus 190, which I don't love. As I've mentioned a few times, there's a couple good spots here on teams that are minus 190. We got the Leafs. We got Minnesota. I think there was one other one in there. Either way, might parlay a few of those together. Might bet them on the money, or might bet them on the puck line. Might bet them in regulation. That'll all be updated and finalized in my article on my website tomorrow, cecilpeters.com. But for now, I'm just going to focus on DraftKings in this game because I think the goalies are pretty bad on both sides, especially on the San Jose side. Also has me leaning towards betting the over. But Minnesota, they just find a way to score every single game with a different part of their offense. Last game, it was the third line. Rem Pitlick hat trick. Ryan Hartman, who's having a great season, by the way. Unbelievable cash play right now because he's so cheap. He's scoring almost every game. Last game, he finally didn't score. 3 assists, so he gets a 3-point night. He's got the most goals on the entire team. He hovers around $4,000 in DraftKings salary nightly. But that was the line that scored last game. I tend to like the Kevin Fiala line with Marcus Foligno and Joel Eriksson. You can also go a little more expensive and play Kirill Kaprizov. It's hard to pick with these guys. They kind of spread out the ice time evenly. They do well. They mix and match on the power plays a bit. But San Jose, not great in net, not great defensively. Definitely a team that I want to pick on. As far as betting the game, I think you got to get creative and either parlay it with something or bet it on the puck line. Next game, Arizona Coyotes still stuck on 1 win for the year. St. Louis Blues are minus 320. I mean, basically it comes down to this. One of the league's best teams against one of the league's worst. Impossible game for me to bet just because of the line. St. Louis will be of interest with shot props and on DraftKings for me. In both regards, Pavel Buchnevich and Vladimir Tarasenko are of interest. They've both been going over their shot prop a bunch lately. Their lines are playing great. Buchnevich is playing with Jordan Kyrou on the wing. They've had great chemistry together. Tarasenko has great chemistry with his center, Robert Thomas. He's got 7 assists in his past 3 games. He's really turning into a great playmaker for the Blues. Gives them a nice 1-2-3 punch down the middle. Another reason that I really like the Blues going forward and has some interest in them on DraftKings, but as far as this game, minus 320, not something that I'm interested in doing. Another game here on the slate, Edmonton Oilers, fresh off beating St. Louis, coming to Winnipeg. This game's a pick'em right now, minus 110 each. This is a tough one to bet. That's why it's a pick. It's a fantastic number. So in the end, after looking at everything, I want plus money on either side. I would take plus money on Winnipeg. I would take plus money on Edmonton. But at a pick, I mean, it's the perfect line. It's impossible for me to pick. I'm completely even on both teams, so I'm just not betting the game. Top scoring talent of Edmonton will obviously dominate, especially when they're on the power play. But the Winnipeg Jets, who did sweep the Oilers in the playoffs last year, obviously this won't have a playoff atmosphere, so it's a little different. But their elite 3-line depth will be able to take advantage of the Oilers roster. On DraftKings, obviously you can't go without considering Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Super expensive, but they get 2 points every night. Hard to ignore that. On the other side of the game, the Winnipeg Jets, one of the best lines in the league, if not the best, especially if you're looking at expected goals percentage. Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois, whoever they end up having on the wing, this duo has been fantastic. They're both shooting a ton. They're both on my radar for shot props, and they're definitely on my radar for DraftKings. Probably going to play against Connor McDavid, which means, yes, a little more defensive responsibility, might give up a couple goals. Also means you get a bunch of chances going the other way. So I love Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois in this game. Edmonton is horrible defensively. Should be a high-flying game. Love targeting both sides of it for DraftKings. Next game, Detroit Red Wings plus 150 at Dallas minus 175. Again, I don't know how Detroit performed in the last game against Columbus. I'm going to stay away from betting this game just because I don't love them on a back-to-back. If I did have a lean in this one, it would be on the underdog Wings. Dallas is kind of like Pittsburgh for me right now. They seem to win games they shouldn't, lose games they should. Every time you think they're due for a good one, they have a stinker. They maybe found their scoring touch last game. They scored, I think, 4 or 5 goals against Philly. The big news for me is that Roope Hintz scored again, his second of the year after a terrible start. He's heating up. That line's playing great. I do think that Dallas is going to start to score some goals. But every time I start to think that, they go back into their stupid defensive shell, play horrible hockey. So you just can't trust the Dallas Stars right now, so I'm not interested in betting this game. Next game, Carolina Hurricanes at Vegas. Another game I'm sitting out. 2 really good teams. Carolina should probably be favored by a bit. They are. But Vegas is starting to get healthier. They're getting good goaltending. Their depth is starting to score, so I just don't have the confidence on either side. Another really fair line. I think it's exactly what it should be. Both teams with a bit of injury issues. 2 great teams. They're both going to go deep in the playoffs, I would assume. But fair line, no bet in this game for me. Last game of the night. This is my favorite bet by far. If you followed my premium article or been following my bets, you know that we love to make money on the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are a wagon. They've won 7 in a row, often at plus money, and here we are again, Anaheim at home, plus 125. I'm sure it has to slow down at some point, but I'm definitely not jumping off at plus money. Washington has played awesome despite their injuries, but this isn't a bet against the Capitals. This is simply a bet on the Anaheim Ducks. We got Troy Terry riding a 14-game point streak, playing with Ryan Getzlaf and Adam Henrique. Getzlaf a couple points away from 1,000 for his career. Kevin Shattenkirk playing great on defense. Jamie Drysdale playing great on defense. John Gibson, one of the best goalies in the world. But the main reason I'm optimistic here, Trevor Zegras. He came back. Bit of a slow start. He came back from injury. He was really buzzing at the start of this win streak. His offense was one of the reasons they started to win games. I started to bet on them. Then he went down with injury. He came back. Troy Terry line's buzzing. Adam Henrique, who was playing with Zegras, was playing up with Terry. They didn't break up that line. So Zegras, his other line mate, Rickard Rakell, went down with injury, Jacob Silfverberg, so they didn't really have anybody offensive to play with him. So he's playing more of a limited role, less minutes. No points for a few games in his return. And then last game, power play goal, 2 goals, 1 assist, great assist too, nice spin around a pass. Trevor Zegras is back. And these young players, he's a rookie, they tend to get really hot or really cold. And we just saw the cold streak, 3 or 4 games without a point, not a ton of shots. Before that, he was scoring a couple games in a row, getting over at 1 shot every game. And now he's back. He's back to that form. I'm going to go hit him on the shot prop. I'm going to hit him probably on the to score bet, and I'm going to be playing him on DraftKings. So this gives Anaheim another line to keep scoring. So instead of them kind of having the Ryan Getzlaf line, which is still scoring, but you can kind of see them slowing down a little bit as teams start to target them. Well, now Anaheim has a second line that they can throw out there. Okay, we got Jacob Silfverberg coming back from injury. Rickard Rakell is still on the shelf, but Silfverberg's there. Seagrass is there, so they have more players they can throw at you now. Love Anaheim to continue this big win streak at plus money. That's going to be my bet of the night. Them and the Flames are the 2 that I've made already. Obviously, we'll add some more as the day goes on. So like I said, kind of went over my DraftKings plays as we went through that. Just going to run through them quickly. In net, Igor Shesterkin, John Gibson for Anaheim, if he does get the start, and Jacob Markstrom are also on my radar. And offensively, I just like to target the bad goalies, so that for me means St. Louis, Minnesota, touched on those, Anaheim. First line of Troy Terry, Ryan Getzlaf, and Adam Henrique is playing great. You can also go to Zegras, as mentioned. Detroit, Dallas's goaltending isn't playing that great. Dallas plays pretty decent defensively, but if you do like the Detroit Red Wings, Dylan Larkin's line's playing really well right now. And then Calgary's second line as well to get a little bit of savings. As always, if you want access to my article with my finalized bets and DK plays tomorrow, once we have more information closer to lock, I release that. I do charge for it. If you hit me up on Twitter at Cecil Peters, let me know that you found me on the show here. I'll give you the discounted rate for listeners. Other than that, I got nothing for today, and we will see you back tomorrow for a 3-game slate. Thank you.